About a year and a half ago, I did a video reviewing the BRIO Santa Fe, and this one is from the 1990s. And I had to look high and low to find one of these, and to find one in good condition that still had the box and the plastic tray it came in and everything. I had to pay some money for that. It's probably one of my more expensive BRIO purchases. Now fast forward to 2025, and the nice people at BRIO released a new Santa Fe. And there are some obvious differences, and just looking at the box, I already have a concern or two. But let's open this up and take a look, and then we will compare the two. So when you open the box, you get this tray here. I guess now they're cardboard when you buy a train. They used to come in plastic trays way back in my day. There's the locomotive. And this is pretty well secured, so I'm going to set this up. I don't want to pull anything out with one hand and damage it, so I'm going to set this up, and then we will take a look. I forgot to mention that this is part of their Trains of the World series, and it looks like they got this licensed from BNSF. If you're not in America and you don't know, BNSF stands for Burlington Northern Santa Fe. It's the successor to what was just the Santa Fe. And there was a merger, I think around 1996. I paid $34 for this, $35. That seems to be about the going rate. Maybe you can find a little bit cheaper. And here it is. This is the 2025 BRIO Santa Fe. As you can see, my kitty cat is really into it, just like he's into all my trains. And there are some key differences that I don't care for, and there are some things that they did right that I do like. And regardless, obviously most people don't buy a BRIO for a historically accurate model or anything like that, but for this type of locomotive, this is called an F7. This is kind of that first generation of like streamlined diesels in the 1950s. This was absolutely the iconic paint scheme that everybody associates with this kind of locomotive. And most people think of them as red and silver. There were ones that had blue and silver and yellow and silver, but the Super Chief and a lot of the trains running around California and the Southwest were painted in this color. And this is it was a luxury passenger experience that basically ran from Los Angeles to Chicago, and it was quite the way to travel back in the day. And that brings me to my first kind of like, I don't know about this, because the Santa Fe was always a passenger train. And as you can see, these are not passenger cars. These are cargo. Now, there were locomotives like this that did pull freight. Usually they were painted one of the other colors. The blue ones pulled freight primarily, and they'd be blue up front and silver, and those pulled freight. The red and the yellow pulled passenger cars, but for different trains. I do like that they kind of kept that bottom yellow and red stripe. They carried that through to the rest of the train. I do like that. I like the little BRIO down there. That's very cool. I like that these are longer than a lot of standard BRIO cars. These are longer, kind of like the log car review I did a little while back. Let's decouple one of these. And these open up on top, which seems to be just a thing BRIO does these days. And you get two pieces of cargo with it. What looks to be some kind of engine of some kind. I'm not completely sure what this is, but you'll notice it also, I don't know if it's for the railroad or for Germany or what, but carries that stripe pattern over here. But this looks a little bit more like a German flag to me, so I'm not sure what that's supposed to represent. But it just goes in here like that. Close it up. And it snaps shut. If you have one of the BRIO crane accessories, I have one with the port set, the review of the cargo ship and the little port set I did. There's some other big crane mechanisms and stuff. So your little one just opens this up, and it has a string with a little magnet, and you pull it out, and you can load and unload trains until their heart is content. And this one fits in here. And that's something I will say even for the adult model railroaders. There's not like one correct way to play with your trains. I want to emphasize that, because you do have guys, grown men, older men sometimes, you know, people, guys my age, I'm 45, and they won't build a big, you know, circle, oval layout or anything quite like that. They'll just build like a train yard, or they'll build like an industry scene, and they'll move their trains back and forth, and just load and unload them, or you know, if it's a yard, they'll just, you know, have a switcher moving around, putting together a train for when the bigger locomotive comes. So, or other people just like running trains. I just like running trains. That's what I do. I you know, that's me. I'm pretty simple. So, but yeah, this looks nice. Let's take a closer look at the locomotive. Now, a lot of the BRIO's modern kind of EMD F7s are these 3-wheel things, which I don't think look terrible, but certainly not prototypical. Wheels are plastic, a lot of plastic on this one. This is wood, and this is plastic. Got a little door in the back. And that red, this paint scheme on the Santa Fe Railroad is called a Warbonnet. And because Santa Fe Railroad and where it traveled and stuff, it's very closely associated with American Indians. That was in a lot of their marketing. And if you look at a Indian chief's war bonnet, Native American Indian chief's war bonnet, this is kind of meant to resemble that, and that's what this was called. And more specifically, this is a red bonnet, obviously because that part is red. And like I mentioned earlier, there's blue bonnets and yellow bonnets. Lettering on this is very nice. I like that they included the BRIO. There's 98. I'm not sure what the 98 reference is. I don't know if there's a rhyme or a reason to why BRIO puts certain numbers on certain locomotives and pieces of equipment. For a second, I thought, well, maybe that's because the original Santa Fe came out in 1998, but it came out before that, so I'm not really sure why there's a 98 there. Maybe it's just somebody thought that number looked good. I don't know. Got this little venting up there. That's cool. Not one on top. It's just, you know, it's just a painted on graphic, but it looks cool, and that's how these locomotives looked. I mentioned this isn't modeled after an EMD F7. EMD stands for Electromotive Division, and what was that a division of? General Motors, the car company. They actually made locomotives for a long time. And EMD still exists, but now it is owned by Caterpillar, I believe. Oops. I went too far. What do you think, buddy? Do you like the new Santa Fe? Yeah, you don't seem 100% into it. So, there's some complaints about modern BRIO, unfortunately. And I think in terms of quality, BRIO is still the best if we're talking wooden railroads. That's been my experience. If you disagree, please leave a comment. But I think BRIO is still the best quality. But my experience has been that the quality is not quite as good as it was when I was a little kid back in the 80s. And we'll look at the 90s BRIO Santa Fe here in a second, but you'll see that middle wheel is wobbling a lot. It rolls just fine. This back wheel right here on the first car is also wobbling a lot. They didn't used to do that during the day, or back in the day. They didn't used to do that, and it doesn't look natural. And I mean, I know it's a toy and it's not supposed to look exactly like the real thing, but you know, it would be nice if they had their old build quality, which would mean more wood, probably not manufacturing in China, and you know, I get it, that's expensive, but it's, you know, maybe that's the world we're moving to. We'll see. Okay, here is the old Santa Fe. Now, you'll notice, let's compare to locomotives first. Sorry, buddy. Didn't mean to bump you. Sorry about that. You'll notice the older one is much longer. This is much more prototypical. This is what it looks like. You'll notice the wheels, it's two separate trucks. On a train, if you don't know what the wheels, the assembly for the wheels, those are called trucks, as opposed to this. So this is more accurate looking, I think better looking. I will say, I think they got the correct shade of red closer on the new one. My other more detailed models and stuff for other gauges of trains and stuff are closer to that brighter red. Not that this looks bad. On the top though, this is the correct paint scheme, not that, where it has a little divot. I like that the old one has a magnet on the front, or a coupler, if you will. I think that's cool. So this is a little more roundy in the front. The front honestly looks a little more prototypical on the newer one, but it's very easy to tell what this is on the older one. But so there's pluses and minuses about both, you know, if I'm being frank. And this is probably my biggest complaint, is the old one comes with passenger cars, as it should, because the Santa Fe was a passenger train. Now the Santa Fe Railroad hauled all kinds of things, but given the locomotive they chose to model, you know, that looks like a Santa Fe Super Chief, which was a passenger train, so it should have passenger cars with it and not freight. So I'm not sure why they did that. Maybe somebody just wasn't concerned with being historically accurate, or just they thought people would have more fun with the cargo or whatever. But yeah, I think that's too bad. I think they could have made a very cool passenger train here. And something else I would suggest, you know, if it was possible to buy, you know, if it comes with two passenger cars, that's fine. But I wish BRIO would make it possible so you could buy individual cars, or they used to just sell packages of like 3 or 4 cars you could buy. So if you wanted to make a longer passenger train, like I think that would be cool. I wish they did that, or just a longer freight train or anything. I wish they still did that. So, but there you go. That is the 2025 BRIO Santa Fe. That piece of chrome up front is kind of cool. I guess that's the price you pay for not having a magnet. So like kind of like on the very front, this one looks better. They got the red better, but as far as the shape and the wheels and all that, the older one has its pluses too. And I really prefer the passenger cars. I just wish they had made this a passenger train. And BRIO, if you're listening, it's not too late. Like, you know, this is fine that you released this. Just make another one that's a passenger version. I think people would really like that. So that's my 2 cents anyway. Thank you so much for watching.